Hi, Professor Mark. My name is Deepak Sathe. I am a senior consultant with Mercer. I'm also a student for the Executive MBA program at Ottawa University, and I'm currently enrolled in the Creative Organization professional course. Today, I'm going to talk about one of the massive transformation processes, external factors known as S.C.A.L.E. The abbreviation for S.C.A.L.E. is as follows. S stands for staff on demand, C stands for community and crowd, A stands for algorithms, L stands for leveraged assets, and E stands for engagement. Now, starting with staff on demand, what is staff on demand? So staff on demand is basically a resource utilization technique where you do not have all the resources and all the skill sets available in your team, but you try to leverage the skill sets or the expertise as and when it's necessary. The idea here is to keep the full-time equivalence as minimum as possible. So basically, your sales, marketing, your management would be someone you would consider to be full-time because they're going to stay with the organization. They are the ones who are going to make decisions for each and every step of any product release or any type of decision that needs to be made. Now, let's say if you're developing a product, and currently the product is in a phase where you need to design its security. Now, with staff and demand approach, what you would do is you would reach out to any one of the staff and demand models out there or resources out there and try to leverage who is expert in security. Let's say you hire a contractor, and then that person comes in, analyzes your product, and kinds of guides you or recommends you some kinds of protocols for security. And you may even hire him to do the job to implement security for your product. So that's staff on demand, where you don't have that person as a full-time on your team, because once you release your product or once you're done with your product development, you wouldn't need the security guy. So that's a liability on you. So instead of that, why not just leverage the skill set when it's necessary? So that's staff on demand. Moving on to the next one, which is community and crowd. Community is, for technology, community is very big. So there are different kinds of projects. There are, I don't have numbers for it, but there are numerous projects on every kind of technology that's being utilized today. So instead of reinventing the wheel, why not leverage something that's already out there in the community? I work as a Workday consultant, so even when I am developing my stuff, so I'm an integrations consultant. So if I'm integrating, let's say with LinkedIn, I'm not the first person to do it. I know that someone must have integrated with LinkedIn and integrated the system with LinkedIn before. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to try to go into community. We have our own community, but there are also other communities for technology resources where I can try to see if someone has already used that to leverage or to leverage the expertise that was already gained during that development. So that's the power of community and crowd. You can also pitch your idea to the crowd, and you can try to get some recommendations, and then try to use that knowledge to kind of come up with a plan to develop your product. The next one is algorithms. Now, same as what I just mentioned about utilizing what's out there in community is similar to what algorithm also means. Algorithms are basically automated processes that you can utilize for your product development. You don't need to again reinvent the wheel. You don't need to start from scratch unless you're developing something for the niche market. You don't have to do it. So that's the basic idea of algorithms. So use data streams to automate your project and get insights in cloud-based and deep learning techniques. So nowadays you have AI, you have deep learning mechanisms, you have deep learning systems that can help you. You have BI resources, data intelligence resources that you can utilize to see what's going on in the market and what you can do to improve your product. So why not use that? So that's algorithm. The next one is leveraged assets. Now, I'm a Workday consultant, so I'm using the cloud-based platform. So I'm using a software as a service, which is a cloud-based software, and then we leverage cloud. So leveraged assets is where you have a base technology with sitting out there where you can utilize that to develop your product or bring your product to the market. Now, another great example would be Amazon Web Services. Now, so many small businesses as well as startups have utilized Amazon Web Services to scale their projects or scale their products, whatever they're trying to work on, and they try to use its features to bring in more, I would say, better user experience for their customers. So that's a really good example for a leveraged assets in technology. The last one is engagement. Now, engagement is very important because when you are trying to launch a product, you try to launch or you try to start, or maybe you started it a year back or maybe a few months back. You don't know what the market has changed. You don't know, you probably have no idea about how much the market has, I would say, changed, as well as what's the new trend in the market. So what you want to do is you might want to reach out to your customers, or you might want to reach out to your potential customers, and also reach out to people and brainstorm their ideas. A great example for this would be the electric vehicle market out there. One of the companies called Rivian, which is making an electric truck, or actually 2 electric trucks. They announced their trucks 2 years back, but now that Tesla has released 2 or 3 models since 2016 or 2017, when Rivian announced its products, there are so many changes that have happened in the market for electric vehicles, starting with rebates from the government, starting with fast charging systems, the fast charging network, and all of those things. Having companies coming up with new battery technologies, companies scaling up their battery productions, and all different things that's happening in the market. So what Rivian is trying to do is they're trying to reach out to their user community, and they're trying to gather ideas, and they're trying to see if they can leverage those ideas when they're going to launch their product. So I can probably talk more about it, but then we need to keep this presentation short. So in the interest of time, I'm just going to use that example to define what engagement really means. So basically, S.C.A.L.E, or S.C.A.L.E, is what you need when you're launching a new product, or when you want to be successful as an organization that's coming up or trying to grow or trying to scale towards a successful, bigger organization. Now, the other question that wasn't as a part of the assignment was if my company or the company I work for follows the exponential organization approach. I would say partly yes and partly no, because we do not consider each and every factors in the S.C.A.L.E methodology, and then we do not use each of them. Partly because we are an established organization, so we have the finance, or we have the capability to have enough full-time folks in our team that we can always use, and we have projects going in and out, so we are always on projects. It's not that we're going to release a product and then we stop, or maybe we take another 8 months or 9 months and release another product. We are simultaneously working on 10 different projects at a time. So you need full-time staff for that. So definitely not staff on demand. But yes, we sometimes use contractors. We sometimes use resources that have specific skill sets. So somewhere yes, but in general no. The next, if you go to the abbreviation, then community and crowd, I'm a Workday consultant, so we have our Workday community. I leverage that community heavily because every time I try to build an integration, I do not work from scratch. I always go out to the community and see if someone has already built it out. It saves time, it saves effort, and it also kind of gives you, when you're looking at the solution, maybe you can try to better it, or maybe try to create a better solution on what's out there. Or maybe that's one of the best solutions, so you can always try to use it. Algorithms is something that's already built into our product. We always use leveraged assets, and engagement is, for us, the engagement is with the customer. So our goal is to have constant sessions with the customer and try to get the feedback as much as possible. So if looking at a project level, or maybe within the dimensions of a project, we somewhat follow a scale methodology of exponential organization, but on an organization level, there is minimum utilization of scale. Partly, again, as I said, because we're an established organization, we have several projects running at the same time. We have several products that we try to maintain at the same time. So the answer would be no, we do not use scale as in our organization. The other question was, if your company does not follow exascale, is your company's approach better or worse? Well, I wouldn't say my company's approach is better. There are always room for improvement. There are things that can be learned from exponential organizations as well. I've mentioned that in my previous assignment, talking to my director, and he did recognize that there are things that can be done which can vastly improve our process. So I would say better and worse. We have mastered certain things that which makes us number one HR consultant in the business. So we are better in those terms, but we still are trying to improve our approach towards managing organization. So that's always something that we're learning on the go. The last question is, with respect to scale methodology, what recommendations do you have for executives? So when I learned about scale, and when I try to read through the book, Exponential Organizations, I found that the approach that was mentioned in the book is quite interesting. My recommendation to my executives would be, if we could scale down on the number of resources we use. As I mentioned, we are on several projects. We try to maintain several products at a time. So it's imperative for us to use as many full-time resources, because these full-time resources are always utilized. We are never in a situation where we have, let's say, if a team has 10 people with 10 different skill sets, while we are working on a project, one of those skill sets is sitting idle. It never happens. So it's understandable for our organization to use full-time people, but there are other areas in the company or organization that can leverage the staff on demand resource utilization technique. For example, we have a ticket management system that we use for our internal purposes as well as external vendors that we work with, which is basically a part of the supply chain for our organization. So in that, we do have a whole set of people that work on it. But then again, when I look at it from where I sit, I do not have that much of an interaction with them. But then I do see that there are 4 or 5 people doing the same job. So why not restructure that particular department and have kind of a staff on demand approach, where you just want certain people. Let's say if you have a high priority task coming up, just utilize or hire 4 or 5 contractors and get the job done, and for 4 to 5 months, and just be done with it. The second recommendation that I would like to give to my executives is to use leveraged assets. Leveraged assets, in a sense, we do have a lot of things that we try to build from scratch, or we try to reinvent the wheel. That's something that this also connects with community and crowd. There are so many things that other successful organizations in the likes of Deloitte, PwC, KPMG, what they have done, what's their methodology, what's been working for them. Maybe a few things from that can be taken into account for our organization and try to see if that becomes a success or not. That is something that I would try to see if that works for our company, and that's something that I would like my executives to take a look into as well. I believe it's already 15 minutes, and I know this should have been a 3 to 4 minute video, but since there was so much to explain, I think I have covered everything, and I want to thank you, Professor, for giving me the opportunity to learn about this external methodology for massive transformation process. It is really a good learning experience, and it gave me a lot of new insights into what successful organization means. Thank you, and have a good day.